Welcome to Kush News, the newscast of the African diaspora. I'm your anchor, Ochanda, daily bringing you the top stories from Africa and the Caribbean. Let's take a look at today's news on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. We go to Guinea, where the government is getting an update. Guinea's military junta has dissolved the government. The announcement came on Monday by the president's Secretary General, Amara Kamara. General Kamara did not disclose the reason for the dissolution nor say when a new government will be put into place. Ministers in the dissolved government were ordered to surrender their passports and official vehicles, and their bank accounts had additionally been frozen. The dissolvement was led by the dissolved government was led by Bernard Gamal, who had been appointed prime minister during the coup d'etat. Back in 2021, Colonel Doumbouya led Guinea's military to overthrow then President Alpha Conde after a series of protests over Mr. Conde's bid for a third term. Guinea and several other countries in the West and Central Africa have been hit by coups in the recent years, and Guinea is expected to hold election in the next 10 months. Those in Guinea, let us know your thoughts on the rearrangement of the government. Let's go to South Africa, where they are back at the International Criminal Court of Justice. On Tuesday, South Africa argued that Israel is responsible for apartheid against the Palestinians and that Israel's occupation of land is, quote unquote, inherently and fundamentally illegal. Israel so far has rejected such claims. South African representatives were speaking on the second day of hearings at the ICJ on the legality of Israel's policies in the occupied territories. Israel rejects accusations of apartheid and has accused the court of prejudice. Palestinians and Israelis have been fighting over the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem since the 1960s. South Africa has had a long history of support for Palestinians. The African National Congress, known as the ANC, has compared Israel's policies in Gaza and the West Bank to its own history under the apartheid regime of white minority rule. Those in South Africa, let us know if you're paying attention to the court hearings going on at the ICJ. Let's go to the Caribbean. And there we go to Guyana, where the vice president is assuring the country to being a safe place. On day 2 of the energy conference, Vice President of Guyana, Dr. Jagedo, of the Guyana Energy and Supply Chain Expo assured energy players that their investments will be safe in Guyana. He noted that through the allocation of resources, Guyana has increased its budget significantly, with public spending growing on the infrastructure side.
But I want to assure you that your investments in this country will be safe. Your investments will be safe. That you would have a government that balances the interests, the needs of the investors, the need to earn and do well with the task of ensuring that people, the country benefits more too. Questions rather than making presentations. So most of you probably would have done your research on Guyana, and you would have seen in the newspapers a number of issues that are featured daily here. That the people, the oil and gas companies are robbing us. Secondly, that the state is not defending the people by signing good deals. That the sector doesn't bring benefits to Guyanese. That we're the major cause of global warming. And we must stop oil production now because Exxon is pouring hot water into the ocean and it's causing global warming. So this is real. We live in a democracy, and you have all these sorts of things on a daily basis in the newspapers. And so we have to respond to them. As maybe ridiculous as some of these assertions are, you have to constantly keep responding to these things because in the minds of many people, they actually believe this.
Vice President also said that Guyana also has one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the world. While Guyana's borrowing capacity has been enhanced, the country is not splurging on it.
But we have one of the lowest in the world debt to GDP ratio, one of the lowest debt servicing to revenue ratio in the world. Our debt to the external debt with a $22 billion economy is lower in nominal terms than our debt in 1990. So just think about that. In 1990, we had an external debt of 2.1 billion US dollars. Today, the last figure in 2023, it's 1.8 billion US dollars in nominal terms. Forget the time value of money. At that time, the economy was $300 million. Now it's $22 billion. So our capacity to borrow is greatly enhanced, but we are not on a borrowing, we're not splurging on it, because almost all of our debts so far are on fixed terms, except in two variable rate loans we have, and they're both to multilateral institutions.
It was for these reasons he assured that those gathered and looking on their investments would be safe in Guyana, as they would have a government that balances the interests and needs of investors. Vice President also noted that Guyana is not going to be the Qatar or the United Arab Emirates and doesn't want to be, which he says they are different countries. Guyana is home to less than 1 million people, and they are scattered around the country. Guyana is also covered with 86% of forest land. Those in Guyana. Oh, let us know on if you are attending the 4-day energy conference. What a conference to be at. When we come back, we'll have today's African proverb of the day. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Let's take a look at today's African proverb of the day, and it comes to us from Zimbabwe. What's going on, Zimbabwe? And it reads: the forest provides food to the hunter after he is utterly exhausted. Once again, the forest provides food to the hunter after he is utterly exhausted. Zimbabwean proverb. What this is saying that there is always something set, or there should be always something set in place for you whenever you get done doing what it is that you have to do. In this case, the hunter is somebody that goes out into the bush, goes out into the wild, and has to hunt for big game. Like a big mammal, right? Let's say a big deer, and then he'll come back to the forest to have a place to lay his head, as well as have like the trees to build a fire. And this could be the same said for those of us that are hustling, whether that's for school fees, utility, rent, medical fees, whatever it takes. Just remember that you should always have a place that you lay your head, because that place that you can comfortably lay your head in at night can mean the difference into how much energy and how much focus that you have towards the next day. Let me know your interpretation of today's African proverb of the day, as well as your thoughts, views, questions, comments, and concerns on the top stories. Don't forget to hit that like button. Make it your best friend. For Kush News on Kush Convos TV, I'm Ochanda. We'll see you soon.